This morning we continue our series with our technology partner. Today it's BriefCam, and we have Daniel Laubly with us. Why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about BriefCam, the company?
Hey, no problem. Appreciate you guys having BriefCam on for your webinar here. So a little bit about BriefCam as a company. We've been around since 2008, which makes us a senior citizen of the video analytics content space here. Our headquarters company was founded out of Tel Aviv. Our U.S. headquarters is now based in Boston. And we've got, and this is a bit of an older slide, I think that 2,000 global customers line is probably closer to 3,000 at this point. But we've been around for quite a while, and we've been involved with safeguarding a lot of major institutions, landmarks across the world. Been involved with some very high-profile cases that BriefCam has been utilized to help in the tracking and detection of people and vehicles in question. And it's just been a fantastic ride to work here. A little bit about the customers that BriefCam serves. So historically, when the company was founded, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Hey, Danny, it's Patrick, but we're still on your title slide. You want to go ahead and advance your slides. Let's go to webinars. Not going to work with us this morning. There we go. All right. We're caught up.
Okay. Let me jump back one slide then. Sorry about that. So yeah, there we go.
That's all right.
Yeah, so this is just kind of everything I covered there for a minute. But yeah, so we've been around for quite a while. Some of the cases that we've been involved with where BriefCam was utilized was the Boston Marathon bombing a few years back. We were used to find the location and trajectory of the second brother as he was fleeing the scene. We were also involved in the Las Vegas shooting at the concert about 3 years ago. We processed, I think, about 56,000 hours worth of video for the police to try and trace that entire event through its endeavor there. So a little bit about BriefCam's customers. When you see the technology, and when we get to it here in just a minute, I promise there's not going to be a lot of slides. There's just going to be a couple for you to kind of get the concept of what BriefCam does and how it works, and then we'll jump into a demo. But we've had a lot of history and a lot of work with law enforcement agencies. So the software does fantastic work for people that are doing lots of investigations, where they're spending hours in front of surveillance systems trying to review video to try and find a person or vehicle of interest. But we've added a lot of enterprise type functionality to the system that's made it very, very appealing for corporate security campuses, entertainment, education, healthcare, manufacturing. There's a lot of different markets that the software plays very, very well in. So if BriefCam had a mission statement, this would be it right here. Our goal is to transform video into an asset that is searchable, actionable, and quantifiable. You'll get a bit of a theme of those three things here. BriefCam wants to take the existing investment that you've made into video surveillance and allow you to get more out of it. I mean, I think the average amount of video that actually gets reviewed after it gets written to a hard drive is 5%, something like that. 5 to 7% of actual video that gets recorded actually gets looked at. But there's value in there that is really untapped. So really what our platform does is try and get a hold of all of that and give that information to you without having to power through hours and hours of video. So as we look at how surveillance systems work today, right, there is, either nobody's monitoring at all and it's just something that, people throw into a closet and it just kind of records, or you've got somebody that sits in front of a monitor, banks of monitors for hours and hours on day, and it's just not possible to sit there and actually absorb all of the video as you're sitting in front of it. People's patience, they start to focus on other things. The phone rings, and they have to shift their focus to other areas. And just sitting in front of a bank of monitors for more than 15 to 20 minutes, you start to lose the ability to comprehend everything that's happening in all of those different screens. So what we endeavor to do is we've created 3 integrated modules within the BriefCam software, which we'll be showing you here. And the first one is to accelerate investigations. That's reviewing hours and hours of video within minutes to pinpoint objects of interest. And it's very, very impressive stuff. You'll see it here in a minute. Also to attain situational awareness. So if we want to do real-time alerting on scenarios and watch lists of people or vehicles that are of interest, that should be watched out for, if that's a ex-employee or known criminals or anything like that, we could provide real-time alerts with facial recognition, license plate recognition, and make sure that operators that are using the system can be notified if there's an event that requires their attention. And the last one is deriving operational intelligence. So this is where we really dive into the data that lives within the video, and we collect and collate that data and present it in a very, very easy to digest manner. And those 3 modules are the BriefCam Review, Respond, and Research modules. So we will go into those in just a minute here with the live demo. So how does BriefCam work? What's the secret sauce? Because this is some very, very cool stuff. From here, we take the video input. It gets recorded to the storage system. And then what we do is we process that information. We use NVIDIA GPUs and artificial intelligence, and we go and we extract and classify every object that we see that moves through the scene. And then we create a searchable database of everything that object does or means. And then we allow you to filter out the things that are of interest to you and ignoring everything that's not. So going through that process is what allows us to make that video functional within all of those 3 modules there. So how that works is we'll see a woman riding a bicycle here, and if I'm an operator sitting in front of a bank of monitors, that's pretty much all I'm gonna, if I even notice this person at all, that's what I will say. Okay, there's a woman riding a bike. But with AI and metadata, what we're doing is we're actually writing down all of this information. So she's a woman, she's on a bicycle, she's wearing white long sleeves and black long pants. She's traveling about 10 miles an hour and she's heading south. So we calculate that and write all of that information to a database, but we do that exact process with everything that moves through the scene. So every moving object there, we're doing the exact same process to. And what that allows us to do is something very, very exciting called video synopsis. So we take 30 minutes of video. I mean, for this example here, this could be hours and hours of video, but 30 minutes of video for this clip here. You can see people walking through, kind of sparse activity, one person here or there. So what we'll do is we will extract all of the individual moving objects, and then we will then dump them into what we call a video synopsis. What this is us taking a freeze frame of the background, applying a timestamp to every one of those moving objects, and then putting them into a shorter video clip by reducing all of the empty space between those objects. So we've taken that original 30 minutes of video and we've taken it down to 53 seconds without doing any filtering at all. We've just gotten rid of all of the dead space. So if you don't know what you're looking for, we just eliminated 29 minutes of review without having to worry about fast forwarding through video and accidentally missing something. Oh, was that it? Let me go back, click, click, click. Oh, no, that wasn't it. Okay, let's keep going. Everything's moving at normal speed, and a significant time savings for investigators that are tasked with reviewing lots of video to find the objects that they're looking for. But it gets even cooler when we start to apply filters. So as you'll see in the demo that we're going to get into here, you could filter out for by gender, by color. If we want to only see bicycles that are traveling south, then we can do that as well. These are all filters that we can show you to set in on the software here. And since we are in 2020, what would a demo be without talking about public health? So some of the things that we're going to show you today as well is the ability to utilize BriefCam to do things like contact tracing, be able to identify hotspots, some different tools that we've got for helping to enforce and review social distancing. We've also got a new people counting module. You know, as businesses open back up, they're being tasked with not only just enforcing social distancing, but in a lot of retail and hospitality type venues, they're being asked to limit occupancy to, at this point in a lot of markets, some unknown percentage of their total cleared occupancy. So how do we enforce that? Well, you know, if you're anything like the Safeway near my house, there's a guy out front with a clipboard and a clicker, and you know, he counts how many people go in and out. And then once they hit that capacity, it's kind of a one in, one out scenario. But if you've got a more complex environment where you've got, you know, a larger campus area, or you've got a building that's got multiple entrances to it, it's very, very hard to conduct traffic that way. So having a software platform that'll allow you to not only count people, but alert you to when you are approaching thresholds that you need to be concerned about and take different action with. You know, having a module that'll help with that is significant time savings. So how does BriefCam work with Spectrum? So we have a completed integration with Digital Watchdog, and our software is a web-based platform that will connect into Spectrum and pull live and recorded video from that platform in order to be analyzed within our system. So what that means is on our user interface, and even within the Spectrum user interface, as you'll see here, we can go in, we can pull video in real time to get real-time notification on different aspects of things that we can filter out for or search for, or watch list rules that we can create. Or we could go in and fetch previously recorded video. If we are tasked with an investigation of something that's already happened, we need to do a deep dive into a certain section of cameras for a certain time period because we feel like there was an object or a person or a vehicle that requires more scrutiny. We can go in after the fact, do a forensic investigation on video that's been stored on Spectrum. That's the end of the slideware. So we're going to jump into the demo now.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so here we are within the Spectrum client software. And I've loaded the BriefCam system in as one of the web pages that's available in here. So we've just dragged and dropped it over into this empty cell here. So this is the BriefCam user interface. We've got 3 modules, like I was talking about, the review module, which is where we're going to start at here. And this is our case-based investigation tool. So every block that you see here is a case that we've created. We've gone into the video management system. We've pulled a bunch of the video out, multiple cameras, either similar or differing time frames. And when I go into one of these cases, what it's going to do is it's going to load in all of the cameras over here on the left. So each one of these items over here on the left-hand side is a camera that's part of my case. And in the center here, I've got the individual thumbnail video clips of all of those objects that we've detected. So throughout this case, I've got 8,100 objects that I've detected across the video clips that I've added to it here. And on each one of these cameras here, you can see the individual object count. So all of these are playable video clips that just show this specific object's interaction with the scene. So if I click on that one clip, it's going to load it up, and then we'll be able to see that vehicle as it travels through the scene, up, down the street. Give it a second here. This is what happens when we go from cloud to cloud to cloud.
Yeah, he's performing a little better this morning. There we go.
Yeah, let's see. Gotcha, okay. We were having much better luck this morning, weren't we? Okay, we'll shift gears for just a second. So those are the individual video clips. The important thing here to note is the classification filters over here on the right. So from all of these objects here, we can begin to drill down to specifically what it is that we're looking for. So if we want to look for people, I can just go over here, select people, and it's going to apply that, and it's going to update my list here of just the people that we've detected. So from here, if I want to drill down even further, if I know that I'm looking for a woman, I can do that. I can also search for two-wheeled vehicles. We could do other vehicles like pickup trucks, vans, buses, animals, a lot of different things that we can search through there. So if I just wanted to search for women, I can go through here, select women. And as you can see, it's updating my results and it's showing me how many across all of those cameras match the filter criteria that I've set up here. So I can see it's 600 total, but across all of my different cameras, I've got a lot of different result hits here. So if I want to get more granular about what the person's wearing, what their appearance looks like, I can do this. I can go to person attributes and I can differentiate the upper wear versus lower wear, whether it's a long sleeve shirt or short sleeve shirt, what color that upper wear is, whether they're wearing a hat, whether they're carrying a backpack or a purse or something like that. So I can filter down for, let's see, if I'm looking for a woman that was wearing short sleeve shorts and a backpack. I can go through there, hit apply, and now that's all I'm going to see here is just the women that match that specific description. Okay. Some of the other filters that I can do are kind of a generic color where I'm not limiting it to a specific, top or bottom of clothing. It could be a purse, it could be a bag, it could be, if they're walking a dog and the dog's got a red collar and leash on, I can search for red and I'd probably be able to snatch that color out of there and be able to display that. Size filter, if I'm trying to figure out how long an object is, or I can set up a filter for that. Speed, this is a really interesting one because it works for both people and for vehicles. So if I've got a scenario where I'm looking for people and I want to know if there's people that are running, because in my business, most people that are coming through walk, and if somebody's running, they may have either just committed a crime and are trying to escape, or they're trying to flee from a crime. If there's somebody doing something they're not supposed to, people are fleeing away. It's could be something of interest, and then of course the normal vehicles, being able to detect the speed of a vehicle as well. We've also got dwell time, which is the ability to say, if people are loitering in this area, if cars are parked or idle onto this loading zone for too long, I want to be notified of that. Direction of travel, if I only want to see traffic that's going one certain direction, I can filter down for that. I can also do something called appearance similarity search. And this is the ability to detect an object in one of my cameras. And if I'm doing a multi-camera search around the same vicinity, and I'm looking for a specific vehicle or a specific person, if I can find it one time within my scene here, I can add it to appearance similarity, and then I can search for other objects that match its appearance across all of the other cameras. So it's a very, very easy way to find a person or a vehicle one time and then be able to trace anywhere else that they went within the video that I have in my case. I can also do facial recognition and license plate recognition. I'll show you guys that here in just a second. Let me change my case here. So we'll go to my office break-in case, and all of the objects are going to go ahead and load in here. With face recognition, by default, we capture every face that we see and we rank it. So I'll go in here and I'll click show faces. and we'll get a star ranking on every face that we've detected within the scene there. And a 3-star ranking means that we've got a good shot of the person. We understand all of the different vectors of their face, and we're able to confidently say if this person were to return, come back to the scene, that we would be easily able to identify them and provide a real-time alert if that's what was desired. So I go through here and we'll say this person right here is the person I want to search for. I can add her face to a search list here, hit apply, and now it's going to go through and it's going to show me any time that that person had showed up within the scene there. Then from there, I can add her to a watch list and be notified in real time. I can also upload pictures if I have somebody's badge photo or a social media picture. We can upload that to our system as well, and then have them be able to see all of that information. I'll load up our license plate recognition software and show that to that works very, very similarly to the face recognition, where we capture every plate that we see. So I'll go through here, I'll select license plates, I'll do the same, show plates. And it's going to show me every plate that I captured and a transcription of the plate that we got from it there. And from there, very similarly, I can manually add a plate number that I'm looking for, or I could just get a list of all the plates and then do something very similar where I can just say, okay, show me any other time that plate showed up. I can do partial plate searches. So if I just know the first couple letters or the last couple letters, I can just select one of these filters, go through, and it'll just show me plates that showed up with that, with those characters in mind. Okay, I want to touch on some visual layers within our software here that are very interesting, both for kind of the business side of things as well as security side. So I'll jump into consumer behavior here, and we'll show a little bit of this information. So some of the things that we can do are like activity-based heat maps. So we can show you the areas of the scene in which you're getting the majority of traffic. We can also do that for dwell time. So if there are areas where you're trying to determine where are the hot spots within my scene here, where are the areas that people are going and they're stopping the most at, we can show that information there. We can also do something that's very, very cool. It's called common pathways. So this allows us to go through and, similar to the heat map, but this actually gives you directional trajectory. So you could see which pathways, which aisles, which different areas are the most traveled within a scene there. So when you get to things like operational intelligence and marketing, and trying to figure out where people are going within a store or within a campus or within an office building, what's the most common trajectory for the people there? And we could filter this as well if we wanted to just show the common pathways for the women. We could go through, we could select that, and then it would update all of our charts here to show what the popular pathways for the women were here in a second. But this is great information just to see what areas people go to. If there's an anomaly there where there's people walking in a direction that you don't think they're supposed to be going into, you can do that. Or just kind of for the operational side to better understand how people are moving through your building.
So Danny, a couple questions that had come in, just kind of to re-explain this. The functionality that you're showing is not camera dependent, because essentially any camera that's connected to DW Spectrum, BriefCam is able to ingest and analyze, right?
Correct. Yes, there's no camera requirement. The rule of thumb is basically if it works with Spectrum, then it works with BriefCam, because we integrate directly with the video management system. So yeah, the cameras, we're pretty camera agnostic.
Right. And then, so you mentioned in terms of like your facial recognition, your license plate recognition, and you're able to ingest video from DW Spectrum in real time. In terms of creating alerts or alarms, you can create an alarm to send a HTTP event to Spectrum,
Yes.
so that if somebody on your watch list comes into your store or comes into your business, you would send that event to Spectrum as an HTTP, and then use the Spectrum rules engine to receive that. And you can create notification events in Spectrum as well to do things like pop-up video and do alerts within Spectrum through the Spectrum rules engine, just to kind of
Yes.
complete that thought process back there. Okay.
Yep. So our platform has an outbound API that's all HTTP based and is all endpoint based. So all of that can be configured on the Spectrum side. Absolutely.
Just one more question came up in terms of the architecture. So essentially, the BriefCam product it's a server-based product that's running in parallel with the Spectrum solution.
Yes. Yeah. It's a server-based application. It does need to run on specific hardware because it is it uses NVIDIA GPUs and artificial intelligence to utilize all of the different classifications and filtering that we've shown today. So it does need the NVIDIA GPU in there for that.
Okay.
All right. Give me just a second here. I'm switching out just a second so I can show the synopsis, because that was a little challenging earlier, but I want to make sure that we get to it. Give me just a second. So I'll jump into the city planning, see if this works a little better in full screen. Okay. There we go. I think we woke the cloud up too early after a long weekend.
I know that feeling.
Give me just a second.
No problem.
All right. We are going to give this one more crack here, and then I'm going to move on to the next modules. There we go. You got to shake it enough time and it works. So what you're seeing here is what we call a video synopsis. This is one of the most important pieces of the BriefCam system. And what this is that, the same thing I kind of showed you in the PowerPoint there, which is all of these objects kind of collapsed onto a very short time period within the interface.
Hang on, Dan. Yeah, I think GoToWebinar is still showing an empty road. There we go. Okay.
Okay.
Just waiting for GoToWebinar to catch up. Everything's going to catch up this morning. There we go.
Yeah. Well, everybody working from home, the internet doesn't know what to do with it.
Right. Exactly. Okay.
So we've got.
All right. Sorry.
Yep. So we've got all these objects here on the screen, and each one of these vehicles is got a different timestamp on it. And when I pause it, I can click on any one of these objects specifically here. But these are all objects that were on the road at different times. So like this was 2:35, this is 1:46, 1:35. So these vehicles weren't on the road at the same time. But what I've done is I've taken out all the dead space between them. So I've got this about a 90-minute video clip here. It's 1:27 to 3 o'clock. And all of these vehicles are traveling along. What I've done is gotten rid of all the dead space, and I've reduced the actual viewing time down to just under 8 minutes of actual viewing time. So I've dramatically reduced the amount of time it takes to search for a specific vehicle. From here, I can click on any one of these vehicles, I can hit play, and it'll actually show me the original video in full context of who else was on the road when that vehicle came through there. So this is going back, it's fetching and showing me the original video from Spectrum and shows me the context of that video clip. From here, I can begin to apply some of those filters as well. So if I know what I'm looking for, let's say I'm looking for a pickup truck. I go there, hit pickup truck, and now it's only going to show me the pickup trucks. Okay. If I know more information, I know I'm looking for a red pickup truck. I can go through there, select red, and now it's only going to show me the red pickup trucks, and that time frame to view has been reduced down to about 15 seconds. So if I'm tasked with having to review a large amount of video in a short amount of time, this becomes very, very important. It's a great tool that will save me lots and lots of man hours to try and find exactly what it is that I'm looking for. Okay. And then of course, whenever I set those filters, it's going to show up here in my larger area here, as well as within that video synopsis piece. Okay, couple more quick things that I want to show you guys in here, and then I'm going to move on to the next module. We also have a line crossing tool that we've just recently introduced. And you can do multiple segments on this line crossing tool if you have a larger area and you want to be, and there's different vantage points for it, or you could just do a single one. Let's see, get through and get rid of some of these extra ones. But this is really good for people counting. This is one of the tools that we use to count occupancy or count people as they enter or exit a building there. So we can use just the people or this little line crossing tool to just show me the people that cross that specific line there. So now we'll only see people that make that specific cross there. Okay. I'm going to go and jump over to our respond module now. And this is where we program all of our real-time alerting, people counting, situational awareness. So I've got some alarms that have come into my system here. I've got some ones that are facial recognition where I can see the person's face and where we detected them. I also have something called the people counting alarm system here. So if I've got a specific camera that covers an area, or there's a smaller area within a camera shot where I need to be able to count how many people are currently in that area. So this is like a current Dropbox. If there's more than 8 people in this area at any one time, then I want to have an alert. So this was something that we developed kind of as a general use people counting thing, but now as we get into this scenario where occupancy becomes a big concern for things like restaurants and retail, being able to draw a box around a specific area, be able to know if immediately if there are more people in an area than there's supposed to be has become very, very relevant. So we can also do direction of travel. Any of the filters that we set up that we looked at in the review module, we can utilize here to do real-time alerting. So if we wanted to set up alert that where we got an alarm anytime we saw a woman in shorts, in a short sleeve shirt carrying a backpack, we could set up that alert so we would only alarm us when those criteria were met. And then each one of these clips here are still images. This was what would show up on the Spectrum side when we program in that alarm connection back into Spectrum, so you guys can begin to take advantage of the alerting and then use the rules engine. You would actually get the snippet of still image of whatever that rule violation was. And the last one here I'm going to jump into is our research module. So within research, this is where we take all of that data and we start to make it quantifiable, right? We take all the video that maybe for C-level people, it's They're interested in the data that we're generating, but they don't want to sit in front of a bank of monitors and review the video to gather and understand all of that data. But we can start to begin to put together information that's important to almost all levels of an organization without having to go through the tediousness of monitoring all of the video. So with all of those different filters that we've shown you in the other modules, now we can just take the raw data and the raw counts from those areas and show them in a visualized dashboard here. So this is kind of a retail application. We've got a visitor class section here where we can see how many people came through, what was the breakdown between men and women and children, what areas of this store did they visit the most? Did they spend their time in the shoe section or in this handbag section? What was the pathway they took through these different areas here? And these are interactive, so I can go through here and I can just select one of these cells here, and it'll if I'm interested in the women that are in the store, what areas they're going to, I can click on that and it'll update all of my graphs and all of my plotter charts with just the information that's pertinent for the women. And these are all customizable, so every single one of these cells can be customized to show whatever information you want in whatever format it's going to be most appealing. Some of the other ones that we've got here are things like consumer traffic, and this shows that we can also do third-party data ingestion. So for things like point of sale integration, or other, maybe there's an intrusion system or perimeter system that has, records badge scans or gate openings, and you want to compare that with the visual data that the cameras have gathered. So, we can overlay that third-party data set on top of people counts or area counts, and show the breakdown of how many people went into the store versus how many transactions there were and what was the dollar amount of those transactions. So you can start to see trends over long periods of time on areas where you've got lots of people coming in but maybe not necessarily shopping or making purchases, or vice versa. You've got time periods where there's a lot of purchases. Maybe you need to adjust how many people are working in the store at that point. There's a lot of information, especially historical information, that's very, very useful for being able to visualize the data. Let's see. This is also great for, analyzing city streets, intersection, traffic engineering, that sort of thing. Being able to visualize not only, all of those different visual layers that we saw there, but how many road vehicles were detected versus bicycles versus people on a specific intersection, average speed of travel, how many people went in each direction, and what speed were they traveling through that intersection there. So a lot of very, very useful information that can be gathered from visualizing a lot of this information. One of the new ones that we've just added as an example is one of these checkout analytics, and this becomes more pertinent even because of the social media, or the social distancing stuff that we've got to deal with today. The dashboard here is monitoring 3 different checkout lanes, and the different times of day you can see how many people checked out over the different times of the day there, and based on social distancing and sanitization schedules that people are having to live through now, you can determine how many customers you can serve per checkout on a per hour, per half hour, whatever the time variance is basis. So to say, okay, this is my average cleaning time, this is the average time of the average transaction. So we feel like we could safely serve 15 customers per hour at this checkout station here. So we've got a little slider bar here that says, okay, if 15 is what I think is doable or acceptable by the organization, let me slide this over to 15, and then I can see any time that I've got something that's in violation of that, anything more than that. So I can see that, oh, you know what, between the hours of 6 p.m. and 10 p.m., this checkout station number 1 is serving a lot more customers than the other ones. Now, from an organizational standpoint, does that tell me that I need to make sure I open up other checkout lanes specifically during those times because those are peak hours, or do I need, somebody, kind of like at the Costco where there are people that are kind of managing the lines and moving people from one line to the other to try to kind of load balance those different checkout lines there. So it can be an efficiency thing, but it also can be to help, make sure that they've got time to sanitize everything and make sure that everybody's staying safe. Okay.
All good stuff as far as
Yep.
the dashboards in the research module. Maybe you could address, because there's a couple questions that have come in terms of the licensing model for BriefCam, because you've talked about license plates and facial, and then these different review, respond, and research modules. So maybe you can give a brief description of how BriefCam is licensed.
Sure. So BriefCam is licensed with, it's a perpetual license. We do not break out the licensing for each of those different modules that we showed there, or the different analytic behaviors. So it's a per camera license. So we do license each camera that's attached to the VMS, but you get all of those different behaviors. You get the facial recognition, the license plate recognition, and you get all of the dashboards, all of the forensic tools, the visual layers. All of that comes as a single license. And the only thing that we do license separately is the respond module for the real-time alerting. There is an upcharge on the cameras that or the amount of cameras that you'd want to be done in real time. But those respond licenses are transferable between the different licensed cameras. So if you the base package for the BriefCam analytics comes with 100 licenses to license the artificial intelligence, all the AI, and then it comes with 10 of the respond licenses, which you can use on whichever cameras you want, and those can actually be run on a schedule where during the day it'll do real-time alerting on maybe facial recognition during business hours if people are coming in, and then after business hours you can switch that over to license plate recognition or loitering detection or anything like that, and that would only use one license. So it's basically 10 concurrent real-time alerts going at any one time with that base package.
Interesting. So it's very flexible in terms of, so it starts off with a 100-channel base license and 10 respond licenses. Correct. Are in that base package.
Correct.
Got it. Again, we'll just kind of reiterate, because there was a couple questions back in that architecture question. So yes. BriefCam is loaded on a server, and that server can reside on site, or it could be at a centralized location. So cameras that are recording in Spectrum on site can be configured to work with that centralized location, or what are the different options in terms of the architecture? Gotcha.
So BriefCam wants to be located as close to the sources of the video as it can be. So if you guys are if your video is all being recorded centralized, that's where we want to be. If you guys are recording, cameras out at, if you've got a large distributed system with multiple different locations, and the storage was all local at each one of those locations, then we would want to be as close to that storage or to the video streams as we can.
Okay. And so does each individual server need that base, or can that base be spread amongst servers?
So it'll depend on how large the system is. So one base license is one kind of BriefCam system. So it's not one base license per server, it's one base license per system. So if you've got a large system, you've got a campus and there's 500 cameras. The BriefCam is an enterprise class product, so it can scale up to thousands and thousands of cameras, and obviously you get into a multi-server scenario at that point, but each server doesn't need a base license. Each system would need a base license, and one system could be one server, it could be 10 servers, it could be 25 servers. If if your needs scaled up to thousands and thousands of channels. But it's if you centralize everything, only one base license is needed, and then you just scale up the individual servers for what your goals are for the system. If it's heavy real-time processing, we could do that. If it's dashboards and post forensic investigations, we could scale that up differently. But yeah, it's one base license per BriefCam system.
Okay, understood. Some additional questions have come in regards to, I think they had come in when you were showing the facial recognition, and specifically you showed the multiple instances of that one woman when you drilled down on the search. And really what the questions are based around is the calibration for facial recognition. And they're asking about false alarm rates and so forth. Maybe you can talk a little bit in generic terms about camera setup and optimization for things like license plate and facial recognition.
Sure. So, for both license plate recognition and facial recognition, the rule of thumb is that cameras that are deployed with those things in mind are going to work better than cameras that were just, were randomly already installed, and we're going to try and do, recognition based on those. So, we've got white papers that give kind of best practices for how high to mount cameras for both of those scenarios, how wide of a field of view, resolution recommendations. Really what it comes down to is pixels on target for us. So for a face, it's 24 by 24 pixels on target for the face. I think it's probably something similar for the license plate recognition. But we can work on cameras that are in the wild, that are just mounted on the intersection to monitor traffic. But as vehicles come through, we're going to be able to grab license plates from there. But the accuracy, if we can detect the plate, is going to be very, very good. But it's not going to be as good as a camera that's mounted 4 feet off the ground and pointed directly at a tight shot of a parking garage or a toll gate arm, where vehicles are driving up, stopping, and it's point blank at the right height for license plate recognition, right? So, the accuracy is going to dramatically depend on the installation of the camera, but we can provide best case and best practices for how to get the most out of that. So where it's up to that 90, 95 percentile.
Okay.
One thing I wanted to
yeah,
real quick, and then we'll do the rest in Q&A. Yep. But one thing that we're adding to BriefCam, actually two things that we're adding to BriefCam at the end of next month, is some things that are specifically for the kind of the pandemic fight that we're doing here, is something that we're calling proximity identification. And this is really cool. I really like the way that you guys have integrated this VMS here. But what we can do here is, where's my pause? So let me full screen this. I think is that this one.
Actually, sorry, you can actually just double click on it. No, that's going to create a zoom window. Just double click on the camera. There you go.
How cool. Yeah. Okay, so what we've done is we've created an algorithm that shows the full, we basically draw a circle around every person that moves through the scene. And when one person's circle intersects with another person's circle, that tells us that they are kind of breaching the social distancing, or that 6-foot barrier that we've set up in the software. So what we've done is we've created this proximity sensor that allows us to specify how far apart people should stay. And then we can filter by how long they were within that distance of each other. So this is great for going through and identifying if people are not adhering to social distancing. So maybe if they're passing past each other in a hallway or something, 1 or 2 seconds isn't a big deal. But if they stand around for 15 seconds and are chatting with each other, then that's probably something that they're not supposed to do. But this same module is very, very useful for contact tracing now as well. So if you've got an individual that you come to find out has been diagnosed with COVID-19, we can go back and we can either use that facial recognition search or that appearance similarity search if we don't have their face, identify them, and then apply them to the proximity search. And now I can get a short list of anybody that they got within 6 feet of, while they were within this area of the cameras there. So this becomes a very, very easy way for us to do contact tracing on individuals where if we need to put together a list of people that need to be contacted because they could have potentially been exposed, then we can do that. We can also take all of that social distancing information, the proximity, and create a dashboard about it. So we can tell if there are specific times of day or days of the week in which social distancing is not being basically enforced. And we can get historical information and use that data to make better decisions. One thing that I don't have a video for just yet, but will be available at the end of June, is mask detection. So we also have the ability to detect if somebody's wearing a mask and then alert either on somebody wearing a mask or somebody not wearing a mask. So if there's a scenario where you've enforced 100% mask compliance within your store or in your office, and you want to be able to detect people that are not wearing masks, you can go in there and say, okay, anybody that's not wearing a mask, alert me to that, and then you'll get a notification anytime somebody comes through and they're not wearing a mask.
Okay.
That was all the content. So yeah, we can do
Good job.
the Q&A for the rest.
Yeah, so we got a bunch of the Q&A out of the way already. Guess going back in architecture, with the BriefCam software, it's running on as we've talked about, it's running on a server. Do you have minimum requirements for that server? Can it be deployed on a generic server, or I know you offer servers as well?
Yeah, so BriefCam's pretty open architecture. They just provide a minimum set of specifications for what BriefCam needs. The main requirement is going to be an NVIDIA-based GPU that meets our specifications. So we've got some server specifications that we can provide. You need a strong CPU and a bunch of RAM, and then a GPU that's in there, and we can provide additional guidance on that. Where there's some documentation on our website that talks about kind of minimum hardware deployment specifications, and we provide some examples of server architecture for both kind of an all-in-one, everything runs on a single BriefCam server, and then some examples of how things might scale out if the system requires it. But the main requirement is going to be that NVIDIA-based GPU.
Yeah, NVIDIA-based GPU. From a practical standpoint, just based on the system resources that BriefCam requires and also the system resources that DW Spectrum requires, we wouldn't recommend running both applications in the same server. That's why we talk about a parallel architecture between the two. Yeah.
So yeah, because BriefCam is heavily, it's a pretty heavy lift, especially with the GPUs. So we want to make sure that we've got the dedicated resources on the BriefCam side. That we've seen that there are some applications that we run into like a network port conflict where both the VMS and the BriefCam system are trying to run a web user interface, and they're trying to operate off the same port, and it just it becomes problematic. So we definitely always recommend that BriefCam operates on its own platform.
Right. And so we're getting some questions on the storage, and the storage would be as part of that server, not necessarily, but it doesn't exclusively have to be in the cloud.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
It can be on, so you can build those servers with the storage as part of that.
Yes. And from a storage requirement standpoint, it's nowhere near what the VMS would take up. I mean, I would say that BriefCam storage for your typical deployment is, 10 to 12 terabytes of space, you know, depending on if you're doing a significant amount of real-time alerting and you want to keep that information, keep those video clips for a long time, it can go larger than that, but it's generally just a fraction of whatever you're spending on storage for the VMS side.
Okay, so we just got a couple minutes left. People are asking in terms of, I know you have some support resources on your website specifically for training. You have an
Yes.
online training module. Maybe you want to talk about that for just a second.
Sure, yeah. We used to do in-person training too. You know, I think when all of this kind of blows over, we'll get back to that as well. But you know, we do training, you know, in person when it becomes available again. We do probably 4 in-person trainings throughout the country per year. All of our training is also available online. There are some LMS-based stuff where you can kind of just hop in and take the courses, you know, at your own leisure. Or there's also instructor-led options to have somebody kind of spend, you know, 2 or 3 days going over architecture, installation, troubleshooting, operation, and all of that stuff from one of our customer success team. So both are available.
Okay. Well, so for the group out there, we are recording this. This will be posted on our website here shortly. We are taking note of all the questions. Daniel and I will review the questions. Any that we didn't get back to, we'll get back to you in the form of an email, just to touch base with you on that. But if you have any more, please go ahead and submit them now, and we'll make that part of the download once we export this off of the GoToWebinar. But Daniel, I want to thank you for joining us on this Tuesday morning. Appreciate your time. Maybe you want to throw back your title slide, email address that you can reach out to Daniel directly. He's a sales engineer based out of the western region out of California. But he can certainly help get you in touch with the right people at BriefCam for the right applications. Again, Daniel, appreciate your time. Thank you. Take a look at the website and look at our customer webinars, sign up for the upcoming webinars, and view the recorded webinars there as well. Appreciate everybody's time. Thanks for joining us.